Guess who's back? Back again.
It's us.
It is. It's us. And we're tasting through our new backwoods rye, our second backwoods rye.
Yep, second collaboration with our friends Lee and Bree Atwood in Yakandanda in Australia, down there.
Down there. Yeah. So, Backwoods Distillery is a distillery. Jeez, I don't know when we found out about them, but it was early on, right? It was early on in their production, and Lee was so kind to reach out to us, through the podcast, and we're told that the podcast sort of helped him while through the days while he created some spirit.
One episode we put in an 8-hour workday. It was a blessing.
Yeah, this is our second collaboration with them and our second rye with them. They don't make just rye, they make single malt as well. Those are the two spirits they focus on, but rye was our first experience with them, and we have a bit of a story to tell about this, but looks like you had something to say before we did that.
Yeah, just when you're throwing the word rye around, this is heritage rye. This is rye that had lay dormant in a field for 50 years that was then regrown and sampled and distilled by Lee and Bree. And it's a terrific little story. And like we always say about terrific little stories, they're only as good as the whiskey itself. and when we first sampled this version of rye, it's such a pronounced chocolate cherry note. That was a note that we got on the first version of this, the first release of this, which I actually have sitting right beside me. This was the 3-year-old backwoods.
Well,
and this was 3 years in a re-charred French Oak Shiraz cask. That cask was number 14. And Joshua, do you want to continue the story on what we did once we emptied cask number 14 for this beautiful bottling?
Well, we selected 2 other casks of their rye whiskey, which we really liked a lot in and of themselves, but this is the thing with single casks. Sometimes they're not doing all the things, right? That's why it is it seems easy, but it's not so easy to find a single cask that is a complete, product in and of itself. But we found these 2 casks that we thought really married well together. And so we took that liquid and we married it into that original cask. And that's how we got this baby right here.
Yeah.
That's our backwoods 4-year.
I'm going to say to Nation members who've taken the time to hit play on this video, we started first release cask 14. Yeah. These 2 casks you're talking about, Joshua, were casks 16 and 23, and they had been in re-charred American oak. So we brought the 2 from re-charred American oak and married them in cask number 14, the re-charred French oak Shiraz, for 1 year.
Yeah, for 1 year, but listen, it's all it really needed, and we tasted it along the way, and once it hit that year mark, it just, it was like the dude's rug. It just tied the room together.
It really did. It's one of the sides of the business we do get to talk about with the nation. We don't necessarily get to show the nation, but our experience here of 16 alone, 23 alone, 23 and 16 when they first came together in cask 14, and then this 1 year point, that's a number of different tasting points along the way. And we saw that evolution, and with Lee and Bree, we shared that evolution, and now we get to share the final result of that evolution.
Speaking of sharing, I want to share some of these notes because I find it awesome. Initially I was taken by that sort of oaky note. It's oaky, there's no doubt about it, but with
like
rye,
a balsa wood kind of quality.
Balsa wood, yeah, perfect. But then I went on and I'm getting these appley notes. I don't know if it's like green apple or maybe sort of dehydrated apples, but it's just so pretty and like comforting, you know?
Yeah, when you and I were tasting this previously, you threw out a note that in 2024 is a difficult note to slide past
Mhm,
people. But we said, look, if that's what you're getting, that's what we put in the notes. But
mhm.
this is the perfect venue to explain what you meant by the note you know I'm talking about on the nose.
It it's a freshly opened pack of unfiltered cigarettes. Because no one smokes I mean, I guess people do smoke cigarettes, but, like, yeah, as a high school boy, I remember smoking these when, when you didn't have your Marlboro Reds going on and you had to bum one off of someone and they had those unfilters. You're like, "Oof, I'm in for something, but let me get a whiff of that pack before we light it." And it's glorious. That
Yeah,
smell of tobacco is really nice.
yeah.
Unlit
And
tobacco. Yeah.
and I grew up with two parents who smoked, and I never liked the lit cigarette. I never liked the actual sitting in a smoky living room. But when they had that new pack and they peeled it open, they took off the cellophane and they popped it, and that foil
Yeah.
and that tobacco, that
Yeah.
cardboard, like it all came together
Well,
very nicely. So we're not
it's
endorsing smoking, to
no,
be
no, no, no.
clear. To
Yeah.
be clear.
You can't even smoke responsibly, so we can't even throw a
No,
hashtag in front of that.
no,
But
we can't.
but, it's when I mention that, it's this fragrance, right? It's it's a fragrant, almost incense-like hit of fresh, unlit tobacco. It's not so much walking into a humidor, but it's that lighter, fragrant tobacco smell.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I jumped ahead.
Mm.
I jumped
Alright.
ahead. The nose is so inviting. There's other qualities we haven't exhausted the nose, but that chocolate cherry note that we spoke about in the first release
Mhm.
remains prominent as a rye driven note
Yeah,
in this new version from the Single Cask Nation cinematic
yeah.
universe, to quote James Saxon.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons or one of the ways they get that sort of chocolatey
Oh,
note in there is they've got some roasting going on, some chocolate malt going on there that adds to that
mm-hmm,
chocolatey
mm-hmm,
quality,
mm-hmm,
right? But
mm-hmm.
as you were mentioning the chocolatey, I was thinking about those Biscoff cookies. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Americans might know them from like going on an airplane, and American Airlines gives them to you. They're not super common here in the States, but man, are they good.
There's a thread for me that runs from the balsa wood on the nose to fresh wood
Mm.
shavings on the palate. Like I
Mm.
like
Mhm,
that thread as it
mhm.
travels. There's a freshness to this, a brightness. And I do wonder if the recharred American oak is maybe delivering some of that quality rather than the recharred French oak Shiraz. Certainly the
Right,
spiciness from the French oak.
and that's what I was just gonna say. I'm getting this pleasing spice that starts to increase a bit on the finish, and then it's one of the things that for me, after you swallow it, it just carries through that delicate rye spice just sort of sticks around.
Yeah, for me, a little bit of black licorice
Okay.
towards the back of that finish as well.
Okay. I
How
could
did
be
we score
convinced.
this? I'm trying to make sure I look at the right flavometer. I was just checking our flavometer for
Mm,
earthy on this. It's quite an earthy experience all the way through, and we
mhm.
give it 6 on the flavometer for earthy.
But it's that, though people who love rye understand that sort of earthy quality. It is spice. There is subtle herbaceousness, but then there's things like, that chocolate line comes through, but I get this sort of have you ever had those cookies where it's like shredded wheat dipped in chocolate and you can like people do it around Easter, they put the little almonds in there, the jelly beans, or the bird's nests, I
Oh, the
think they're
mini
called.
eggs, Cadbury's mini
Yeah, the
eggs
mini eggs,
are
yeah,
popular.
exactly. Yeah. Um,
Oh yeah, there's chocolate runs right through this. The wood runs right through it. The earthiness, that chocolate cherry in the mouth, black licorice on the back. but still bright, earthy but bright.
Just as you said that, I was getting this little pop of like citrus on the finish. Just really nice.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Give the viewers the purchasing details.
Yeah. So here we go. This along with two other bottlings will be released on Thursday, April 18th at noon Eastern time. So that'll be 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Yep.
This bottling will be going for $95, and I think we got 204 bottles from this
Oh,
release.
there you go. Not too
There we
many.
go.
What did we
Yeah,
get
not
the
too
first
many.
time? Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Those Australian angels have been greedy because our first round of cask 14 yielded 285. Then a marriage with an extra year on it
Yeah.
yielded 204.
Yes.
Quick note before we jump out of here, the 60% ABV is the natural strength of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Lee had asked us, this is 60 on the nose. Do you want to do anything to it to show that it's a random cask strength? We said 60 is the random cask strength.
Yeah.
We'll tell the nation. They'll be good to go. This is us telling the nation. So April 18, 12 Eastern, noon Pacific, $95. Please support it. We love it. And we're in conversations about the third Backwoods Yak and Danda collaboration.
Yeah, and by the way, Backwoods was recently got Distillery of the Year by World Whiskey Awards. And I think this may be the second year in a row. So it's clear they're doing things right. We're not the only people who notice. It's a lot of others, and we want you to notice as well.
Cheers.
Cheers.